Hello, everyone, and welcome to Full Time, where we take you around the world of soccer locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally. Full Time is presented by the Game Sports Podcast and powered by 91 Network. You are listening to Season 4, Episode 21 of Full Time. I am your host, Daniel Scarpino, and with me is our co host, Gaetano Gallo. Before we begin today's show, Full Time is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza. With their two locations in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, you can download and access the Pizza Portal app so you can enjoy a delicious hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars today. A reminder, listeners, that recordings of Full Time occur weekly or bi weekly, and uploads to all of our platforms for public viewing and listening occur weekly or bi weekly as well. Folks, we welcome you back here to Full Time where we get to talk about the beautiful game. Gee, a very good Sunday morning to you, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing not too bad. How are you doing today, Scarps?
I'm doing very well, sir, and I'm definitely looking forward to our show. And in today's show, we will talk about Europe's Big Five. We'll talk the Europa League final, the FA Cup final, and we will preview the Champions League final as well as the Conference League final. And we will even have, of course, a look at local soccer. As always, if anyone would like to listen to our previous content, please check us out at Full Time on the Game Sports Podcast and 91 Network. And without further ado, Gaetano, and to everyone who has taken the time to tune in here today, let's kick off. We get today's show going with talks about managerial outgoings in the world of football. Gaetano, so many managers have either been sacked, left their position by mutual consent with their club, or have just left themselves or are about to go out the door by a rumor, if you will. What's going on right now in the world of football, and why are there so many managers exiting their post?
Uh, I think there's a ton of reasons. I think first and foremost, a lot of big teams underperformed this year across Europe. Bayern Munich's the one that comes to mind right away. Barcelona. So obviously those management groups are looking for kind of a shake up to kind of bring them back to where they're supposed to be. I also think there's a lot of up and coming managers who have had really good seasons for maybe smaller clubs. Uh, and these big teams kind of aren't going to wait around, till they kind of are unattainable, trying to get them in early. So I think it's just an interesting mix of that.
Yeah, there's definitely an interesting mix of reasons, and it's interesting because we talked off air that you see these managerial outgoings, but oftentimes you don't see them, like you said, within the space of a week or this many at one particular time. So, what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to read some of the managers who are departing or have already departed their club or are said to be departing their club. You got David Wagner from Norwich City, who was sacked basically on the spot when they didn't get promotion to the Premier League. Roberto De Zerbi from Brighton, we mentioned that last show. Jurgen Klopp, as we know, from Liverpool. David Moyes from West Ham, that's caused a little bit of uproar. Maurizio Pochettino from Chelsea was a massive shock, at least for me. He had a meeting with the owner of the club. All of a sudden, it comes out he's not going to be there anymore. Thomas Tuchel from Bayern Munich, as you just mentioned there. Xavi from Barcelona, absolute mess over there. I know you and I were talking about it this past week. Yeah, doesn't make any sense there. It just mental. Uh, we have Pioli from AC Milan. He's leaving. Francesco Ferrioli from Nice. He's leaving. Thiago Motta from Bologna as well. Had a really good season there. He's set to leave. And even Vincent Company now is said to be leaving Burnley by the looks of it. Gee, we didn't even mention anywhere near close to all the coaches that are either out the door or going to be leaving for their next destination. What could you just say about all of that?
I just think there's some incredibly good managers that are going to be, I don't want to call it unemployed, but are going to be available for employment this summer. And I think some of these teams are going to regret letting these managers leave. And I think some of the teams that sign these managers are going to be, laughing all the way to the bank, signing a phenomenal manager, uh, kind of over hasty decisions kind of in the off season here.
Yeah, there's going to be some very happy clubs, and there's going to be some clubs that will certainly regret their decision. But that is sort of the nature of football, especially with such high managerial turnover in our particular sport. And with the summer transfer window, of course, imminent, you can get all of your transfer news right here on Full Time, not just for managers, but for players as well. Let's now shift things over to Europe's Big Five, Gitano, with the exception of the Bundesliga, as we covered the finale of Germany's top flight in our last show. There is no other place that we can start other than the English Premier League. It was an exciting finish on the final match day where it was either going to be Manchester City or Arsenal who would lift the Premier League trophy. The scenarios were all on the table, and both teams did exactly what was required of them, and that was win their game. But in the end, because of that reality, and because Manchester City were up 2 points over Arsenal going into the final match day, it is a fourth season in a row that Manchester City are crowned champions of England. They win the league, attaining 91 points. Arsenal finished second with 89 points. Liverpool finished third with 82 points. Aston Villa end in fourth place with 68 points. Tottenham hold on to fifth place with 63 points, and Chelsea gets sixth with 63 points as well, but a slightly lesser goal difference. All six of those teams that we just mentioned will be playing European football next season. G, first and foremost, a huge congratulations to you. I know we talked for a long time this week, but on air, I'd like to congratulate you as it is your Manchester City who get themselves over the line for yet another Premier League title. Before we get into the footballing side of things, how are you feeling personally as a City fan now that you've won yet another Premier League, sir?
Yeah, thanks, Scarps. It's unreal. It's to achieve the four-peat, never been done in English football. Not even before the Premier League. Something United have never done, Liverpool have never done. Nobody's done it. It's history. It was a huge moment for the club, for English football, and just kind of the fact that kind of the man who led the charges, Phil Foden, a Stockport kid born and raised through the academy, kind of to be, the guy who did, secured us that title is just massive.
Yeah, and you know what? The final match day, itself, it was a little bit dramatic. It wasn't probably as dramatic as it could have been, but it was one where you thought when the game for Manchester City went 2-1, you thought, okay, well, maybe, just maybe. But yeah, to your point, Phil Foden, what a season he had. He was named Player of the Year, of course, as we know. And he was incredible, but so was the entire Manchester City team. And of course, Arsenal, too, pushing City all the way. And that's 2 seasons in a row now that both of our clubs have been going for the title. And I anticipate probably next season we're going to see a lot of the same. So it has truly been one heck of a season. And G, of course, we had all the drama this season. There was a 3-horse title race up until maybe like 3-4 game weeks left at most. And then it became a 2-horse title race, as we just discussed there, for both of our clubs. But for you personally, again, you're involved in these sort of title races as a City fan year in, year out. Was this one of the better title races that you've seen?
Definitely one of the better ones. I still like, for me, the would have been 18-19 City Liverpool title race. To me, that will never be topped. Both teams basically going perfect from like January to the end of the year was insane. But this was right up there. Arsenal really did not make this easy for City. Pushed us right to our limits. And then again, the response from the City players to go and win, however many games it was in a row in the Premier League, just absolutely ridiculous from them. I think it was not the best, but definitely up there with one of the best.
Amongst the best, and that was kind of my feeling on it. And again, the Premier League seldom disappoints, and it's lived up to the hype once again. And it's been a pleasure to cover it here on our show, and we look forward to covering next season once again, and it will be here before we know it. In France's League 1, their season has concluded and the final standings are confirmed. PSG, as we know, are champions. Monaco finished second, and Brest grabbed third. Those three teams will play in the Champions League next season. Lille take fourth and earn a spot in the Champions League qualifier for next season. Nice and Lyon will play in the Europa League as they finish fifth and sixth, respectively. Gitano, your thoughts on League 1 for this season?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the champion was quite predictable. No real shocks there. But the rest of the European places, a couple teams I wasn't expecting to be in there that had great seasons, and a couple teams I had expected to be in there really having rough years. Specifically like Brest and Nice, I did not kind of see that coming from them. I knew they were okay teams, but to push for European spots and get them is pretty impressive from them. And then obviously to see a team, like Marseille not even qualify for Europe's not a great look for them.
Mm-hmm. And next season in in league. I think that we're going to probably look for more teams to be competitive, especially with Mbappe leaving PSG, and there's being some other shakeups in the league. So definitely looking for other teams to kind of step up and push a little bit more to make the parity in that league a little bit better. La Liga in Spain is all set to wrap up with the top seven being confirmed. Real Madrid as the champions, Barcelona second, Girona third, Atletico Madrid fourth, Athletic Club fifth, Real Sociedad sixth, and Real Betis seventh. Each of these teams will feature in Europe next season. What can be said for La Liga?
Yeah, I thought La Liga had a pretty phenomenal year. Obviously, the first half of the year being the Real Madrid Girona title race. Obviously, unfortunately, that didn't work out well for Girona. But yeah, I thought it was quite good there. The rest of the kind of European places being taken up by kind of the major Spanish clubs. Again, predictable, but it was very, very well entertaining. Nothing really predictable until Real Madrid kind of pulled away with the title. We saw the big kind of comeback from Barcelona. We saw Atletico Madrid fall off a little bit. Overall, I thought it was a pretty good year in Spain.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. And I will say for the first, give or take, I don't know, 4 or 5 months of the season when, we were going to futsal every Wednesday and saying, hey, like Girona, they just, just that excitement alone, that hope and that, general excitement, as I said, was just awesome. And then, of course, Real Madrid ended up pulling away. Barcelona ended up turning things around for their season as well. So, yes, predictable a little bit in some ways for La Liga, but in other ways, very good as well. Italy Serie A still has a little bit left. Inter, of course, are champions. Milan will finish second. Juventus currently holds third. Bologna is in fourth as well. Atalanta still has a chance to get into the top four with their 2 games remaining. Roma and Lazio still will have some level of European football next season, and Fiorentina still has hopes if they can win their European Cup game upcoming to get European football next season as well. There's still some games to be played here today in Serie A this afternoon, plus one more on June 2nd. What can you say for this?
Yeah, kind of weird to have 2 runaway winners in Serie A back to back, Napoli last year and Inter this year. It's not what we always kind of expect from Serie A. It's always seen as kind of one of the most competitive leagues, a lot of top clubs. But I want to say, first of all, like a massive drop off from Napoli, which I was not expecting at all. Obviously, their record breaking run last year wasn't going to be duplicated, but I expected them to at least be in the hunt for the title, finish in Europe. But for them to finish literally 10th mid table is quite shocking, considering they didn't have a lot of major departures after their title winning season. But Inter were just phenomenal this year. So good. We talked about at the beginning of the season, like they basically lost the spine of a team and got better somehow, which is just, unthinkable really in kind of the modern game. Juve had a decent season, obviously some turmoil off the field again, but still pushed pretty far for the title. And then a lot of teams like Bologna, Atalanta, and Lazio really pushing for European places, which again, we don't typically expect. We expect them to be kind of in the mix, but to secure the European places in the way that they did, in the fashion that they did it, super impressive out of Italy this year.
Yeah, and you know what? We talk about it so often, but I mean, the Premier League, of course, being sort of our favorite and the best title race this year. The Bundesliga, which we've wrapped up on our last show, that was the most happy surprise, if you will, in Europe's Big Five this season. But for Italy Serie A, it was sort of the unknowingness of what was going to happen this season, and that's exactly what we got. So yeah, some really good surprises there. And in some other ways too, with Napoli dropping down to mid-table, another big surprise. But yeah, it's been competitive in Serie A, and it's been awesome to watch. And we'll see what happens this afternoon, and we'll have a very clear picture of what's going to happen for the European places there next season. And the Europa League final has completely took the world of football by storm with what most deem to be an unexpected result. Certainly, you and I would suggest that. The final, which was contested between Atalanta and Bayer Leverkusen, was one in which most people, including the both of us, had Bayer Leverkusen winning and ultimately keeping their historic, unprecedented, unthinkable, unbeaten season alive. However, the script couldn't have been written any different, as it was Atalanta who win by a score of 3-0 all 3 goals coming from Ademola Lookman. Gitano, where do we even begin, man?
I don't even know. So uh, I missed this game. I was at work and then at soccer. But I got home and I had seen classic football shirts I posted on Instagram that they posted like Atalanta lifting the Europa League trophy. And my first thought was, oh, like must have been a hell of a game, super close, like you know, at least extra time, maybe penalties. That was just my like immediate thoughts. And then I like actually pulled up the FootMob app and looked at the score, and I couldn't believe it. I thought like it was glitching out. I like went to Twitter, checked on Twitter, like no, like they won 3-0. It was domination. And after watching the highlights, the extended highlights actually, like, yeah, I don't know what happened with Bayer Leverkusen. Atalanta just looked like they were not even like one level above, but like 2 or 3 levels above. Just a phenomenal performance.
Yeah, and the preparation, and I've always said it too. Gasparini for Atalanta is a really good coach. The only thing that's kind of missing from his resume is trophies. But if you take a look at all the teams he's coached down the years, even with Atalanta itself, he's always competitive. He always plays really nice football. His teams are always in the mix of being closer to the top. He's made cup finals before, but now he's got this trophy to add to his resume. And the preparation that Atalanta looked like they went through in getting ready for this game was excellent because they were disciplined, they were well drilled, they were super compact defensively going forward. Of course, we know what Atalanta likes to do, and they're a little bit risk esque. But they were a joy to see in terms of the extended highlights. To your point, because obviously I couldn't watch that game either, but it was always going to be if Leverkusen were going to drop a game, you almost wonder if the cup final would have been the one, only because maybe the nerves creep in. So, I mean, we both said that Leverkusen were going to win. We'd be dumb to bet against them. But does it kind of make sense now looking back that, hey, it was a cup final, a big cup final at that? Was that always going to be the game that they could probably lose?
Yeah, I think so. And I don't want to disrespect Atalanta here. Like their preparation was spot on. But also I think this is something like so. Xabi Alonso obviously worked under Pep at Bayern Munich for a couple of years. Pep's known to galaxy brain a final and just not throw it, but overthink it. I think there might have been a bit of that mixed with Atalanta being so well prepared. Just recipe for disaster.
Yeah, 100%. And in the case of the way that Atalanta played, they got it spot on, and the performance from the players. I mean, look, as a coach in finals, you need players to step up and do what they have to do, whether it's a goalkeeper making a big save, obviously your team, getting your tactics executed well, or somebody putting the ball in the back of the net. And look, man, I mean, he had a tremendous game, didn't he?
Oh my god, like that's one of the best final like European final performances you're going to see. Just straight up, like there's not many off the top of my head that I can think of that are better than that.
Yeah, and a couple of those goals, I mean, he had some work to do to like they weren't easy, I thought.
No, he's never, and I don't mean any offensive. He's never been like that level of player. He's always been like good, not great. Serviceable. If you get him in the right systems, decent player. You're going to get some output out of him. But yeah, the quality of like all 3 of those goals, just ridiculous from him. Yeah, and like if you're gonna in your entire career have like that one game where you play, like you're Messi or Ronaldo, like what a time to do it.
Exactly. Turn it on at the right moment. And, I always give credit where credit is due. And, we say it how it is on full time. So my friend actually, he got married last night. I was at his wedding, and one guy that I had talked to, who's another friend of mine, was there, and we were talking. He actually predicted that Atalanta would win. So I give him credit for that because he goes, I think Gasparini is going to get it right. And this will be the one game that Leverkusen wins or loses, excuse me, and that's exactly what happened. And then this past week at soccer, one of the guys on my team said, it was the one Gasparini really didn't have too many trophies, but now he does. Watch how Atalanta kick on from here. So I think going forward, Atalanta is going to be in a good place, and as we know, Leverkusen are in a very good place. So well done to both of those teams for both having good seasons. Obviously, Leverkusen having an extraordinary season, but Atalanta capping it off in probably the best way possible. And Gitano, was another cup final that brought us to the edge of our seats, and that was the FA Cup final, and that took place yesterday. And again, it was a result that no one expected. Football is a mad, mad sport. In a back-to-back final contested between Manchester City and Manchester United, it was the red side of Manchester United, who got the job done over Manchester City by a score of 2-1 in what was a rather shock result in the footballing world, similar to the Europa League final. Gitano, 2 goals from United in the space of 9 minutes in the first half. City pull a goal back late through Jeremy Doku. But in the end, it is United who find a way to get over the line in this cup final, despite all of their difficulty this season, both on and off the pitch. Last year was City who won it 2-1 over United. This year it's United who win it over City 2-1. My friend, love you. Commiserations for that. I know it's a tough one, but if you could please give us some insight to what happened in this game.
Yeah, so it's weird that I'm not as upset about this as I thought I would be. Um, Obviously, the four-peat, softens the blow a lot. Um, but yeah, it's genuinely, it was the worst City performance of the season. They were just awful for 90% of that game. Turned it on in the last 10 minutes, but that's in any case, as good as City are at comebacks and as kind of weak defensively as United are, like there's not a recipe for success to wait till the 80th minute to try and score a goal. Yeah, I thought even though United, I'm going to straight up say this though, United didn't play well either. Both of their goals coming from City mistakes. The first one being the Vardiel header over Ortega to give Garnacho an empty net. And then the second one, Kyle Walker just forgetting to mark Mainu. Just I don't know how he didn't mark him. So it's not like United played well and deserved this result. They didn't particularly, but again, neither did City. So it's not really. Honestly, if they just had not awarded the trophy after the game, I would have both teams would have deserved that. But yeah, it was just it felt very much like City's focus was fully on the Premier League and the four-peat, and after achieving that, just kind of took the foot off the gas pedal, which is very unlike a Pep Guardiola team. Even in preseason and postseason tours, he's typically pretty kind of on pushing the team forward on. But yeah, it was just a not great football game, if we're going to be totally honest. As a neutral, if you watched it, you probably would have, be agreeing with this as well. But yeah, it was just not a great game, and unfortunate for City on the wrong side of the result.
Right, and you know what? I again, I give you a lot of credit too, because we had said, yeah, City should be the out and out clear favorite to win this game. Obviously, we both picked them. Probably 90% of the world did. They had 75% chance odds to win it and the whole bit. But again, football is a crazy sport. It's a cup final. Our favorite quote here on Full Time is, "It's football, so anything can happen." And you said it yourself. United will turn up, because United always turn up for these types of games. And to your point, it wasn't a great game of football. I do agree with that. Both goals, yes, City mistakes. The second one, the man marking, I feel like that could happen to any team. Sometimes you lose a man, maybe sometimes you get outnumbered in the final third. That can happen. I was really shocked with the first goal, and I get it because Vardiel is a young guy, but you teach us at such a young age that if your goalkeeper is running forward and you are about to claim the ball as a defender, you actually don't claim the ball. You seal the attacker so that the goalkeeper can come out and collect or clear his line himself. And the fact that he headed it back as his goalkeeper was running forward, that's just a very sort of elementary type mistake. So I was a bit shocked about that one. But yeah, to your point, United, they didn't necessarily create much. They came from two City mistakes, and they capitalized in the right moments. And again, those 2 goals in the space of 9 minutes, you could kind of feel that the momentum was pulled their way a little bit. And in the final 10 minutes, to your point, it was City who sort of poured it on. But even against a poor team like United, and United have been poor this season, you can't necessarily wait that long to put your foot on the gas. So it is just one result, Gitano, at least in my opinion, and it doesn't retract from Manchester City's success this season. I know it doesn't for you, as they, of course, are once again champions of England for a fourth time running, as we've been talking about in our show. But the bigger headline here is what this means for Manchester United. With this win, this means that Manchester United will be playing European football next season in the Europa League. Had they not won this final, they would not have had any European football next season because their position in the league, which was 8th place, that did not warrant them any European competition. So the fact that they've won this final, G, is sort of the first element of it. But the second element being, how important is it now that United have European football, seeing as they've won this final?
Yeah, I think I think that was kind of more the prize for them than the actual trophy. If we're going to be totally honest, like we've talked about all year, this season was kind of a wash for them. Just poor results in the league. Did they even play in Europe? Yeah, they played in Europe and got knocked out in the group stage, right? Like that's how like unremarkable they were in in Europe this year. Yeah, they've just been piss poor. So yeah, even this trophy is just kind of not really representative of their year at all, but it's definitely going to be kind of a step forward for them for next year. I think, yeah, like I said, that was really kind of what they were playing for more than anything, was that chance to play in Europe next year.
Yeah, and you know what, G, I would say too, you more than me, obviously. I could care less about United, and again, you could definitely care less about United than me. But one thing I will say is that when it comes to managers, for a lot of them, I do have soft spots, and I actually do feel for Eric Ten Hag because I feel like the poor guy can't even enjoy this cup final. And again, you know, anytime that your team loses in a cup final, I've been there. I could care less about what the other team does, but every single interview question is about whether or not Eric Ten Hag is going to be the manager of Manchester United next season. He really can't even enjoy this trophy win with his team. But we talked about it last show. G, he regardless of whether or not he pulls off this FA Cup final win, which he did against the local rivals, do you think, even now that they've won it, do you think that Eric Ten Hag remains the manager of Manchester United next season now that the FA Cup final is officially said and done?
I hope he does, because I don't think he's that great of a manager. I think this United team's awful, and I would like to see that continue. Um, I hope that people in the United board are kind of, blinded by the success. I'm going to put that in quotes because it's not a lot of success, of winning the FA Cup final, and decide to keep him on. But I still don't think that he will be their manager next year.
It's interesting because the one thing for me that sort of turned my opinion. This happened after the last time that we recorded. Manchester United, excuse me, held talks with Ipswich manager Kieran McKenna before an FA Cup final. Like again, I don't. I don't think maybe Eric Ten Hag has done the best job at Manchester United. I'll admit that. I don't think he's done a terrible job, but I feel like that's a slap in the face to your manager who's trying his best. That, hey, we're gonna go talk to somebody and we're gonna try and replace you, even though that we have an FA Cup final upcoming. So that's kind of like turned my opinion to say, like, I wouldn't basically. Today is Sunday, tomorrow is Monday, where everyone's going to be back in the offices at the clubs. I wouldn't be surprised if by Tuesday something comes out and says that Eric Ten Hag has been relieved of his duties at Manchester United. And, his press conferences, what I will say for him, he's been confident and he's been saying, you know what, if I am relieved, I'll go somewhere else and win trophies. And good for him, honestly, because, you know, I like that level of confidence. But would you say, and again, I know you could care less about United, me too, would you say that he's been treated a little bit unfairly?
Um, I think so. Yeah, like obviously interviewing managers before an FA Cup final, before you've even sacked your current manager, is, for whatever club. This isn't just United. I think this is for whatever club's pretty low. But also, if Manchester United want to be the Manchester United of like the 90s and early 2000s, like they can't be soft. They have to be like that little bit ruthless. They can't accept, what Ten Hag has done as the standard, and have to be looking to get better. But yeah, I think he's been treated poorly, but he also hasn't, done his job very well either. And again, not that, not doing your job well should mean you're treated poorly. I think they're both things can be true at the same time. That he's been awful, but he also shouldn't be treated this way.
Yeah, a very good point. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Manchester United saga. But at least for the next short term while, probably the next 24 hours, they can enjoy this FA Cup final victory, something that nobody in the world of football expected. This is Daniel Scarpino and Gitano Gallo, and you're listening to Full Time on the Game Sports Podcast and 91 Network. A reminder that Full Time is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza. You can download and access the Pizza Portal app for any of the 2 locations in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Have a delicious hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars today. A couple other noteworthy finals are imminent, and the biggest of those is the Champions League final. It will be contested between Dortmund and Real Madrid on Saturday, June 1st at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Gee, we had both of our teams knocked out of this competition in the quarterfinals, but just how excited are you for this game, sir?
I'm super excited, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it more for more than just the football. I think there's some incredible storylines kind of intertwined in this final, and I think it's just going to be kind of that perfect kind of storybook football game. Big occasion, Wembley Stadium. Like, really can't ask for much of a bigger stage than that.
Yeah, it's very well said, and there's many storylines to cover here. And in the spirit of the game and betting odds, according to UEFA and DAZN's preview on the UEFA Champions League match preview website, the odds are stacked in Real Madrid's favor as they sit at 60% favorites at 6-0 to win this game. Dortmund hold just an 18% win probability, and the extra time that could come into effect weighs in at 22% probability. Gee, your thoughts on this?
I think it's a little more accurate than the last couple betting odds you've been giving me for the FA Cup final, and I forget which game was previous to that. But yeah, I think that's a little more reasonable, than the last few, because obviously Real Madrid should be the favorites here. They're Real Madrid. They're the best team in the world. Nobody's ever going to argue that. But I still think Dortmund, have a phenomenal chance of being able to win this final. So yeah, I think those are pretty accurate numbers.
Yeah, and I mean, we just talked about the Europa League final. We just talked about the FA Cup final. In football, anything could happen, but in cup finals especially, anything can happen. So the mere fact that the odds are stacked in Real Madrid's favor, you can't necessarily put a bunch of stock into that because the odds were stacked in Bayer Leverkusen's favor. The odds were stacked in Manchester City's favor, and look what happened in both of those. So, again, anything can happen here. And gee, we've spoken about the approach that both teams might take in this game on our previous show, and we made our opinions very felt and all these sorts of things. But do you think now, maybe just that the cup final is approaching, about a little less than a week out now, do you see maybe a little bit more of a cautious approach that we are getting closer and closer to this cup final from both teams?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we've seen Madrid; they're kind of able to park the bus. They did it really well against Manchester City, so we know that they have that in their locker and they can do it kind of at the highest level. And I think Dortmund aren't stupid enough to think that they can just throw everything at the wall at Real Madrid. That they're going to have to be, kind of smart and a little more cautious. So I would expect the game to kind of follow that kind of tactical game plan a little more than kind of the usual Dortmund and Madrid game plans.
Yeah, and I would love the usual to come forward, but both managers are too smart. Both teams are too smart. And again, it's ultimately the biggest cup final in club football. So I definitely foresee a more cautious approach, and probably for good reason. And you talked about it earlier. There's so many storylines that come into this final, and we've made it clear for well over a month. Well, about a month now, anyways, that we want Dortmund to win this final and complete this story. Will they do it though? That is the question.
My heart says yes. My brain says no. Obviously the Marco Reus, finale at Dortmund, like I said, it would just be the perfect storybook ending, like the Disney movie ending. It would be amazing. Especially considering they lost the Champions League final at Wembley to Bayern Munich 11 years ago. His final game for the club, like it writes itself. It's so perfect. But that's also the exact reason why my brain says like it's not going to happen, because life isn't always like that, and they're playing a Real Madrid juggernaut. But then you also have the storyline of kind of the one real England star in Jude Bellingham winning his first Champions League at Wembley in London. Jadon Sancho on the other side, who probably isn't going to the Euros with England being able to win the Champions League at Wembley. So you kind of have all these little stories mixed in there. Either way, I think it's going to be a phenomenal game. But like I said, my brain says Real Madrid. My heart says Dortmund, I haven't picked which one I'm going to listen to yet.
Well, you know what? For me, and again, it's almost sickening how much we agree on the show, you and I. But I'm in the exact same position. The only thing that I would say is that I have to listen to my heart because I also in my brain think, yeah, if I'm just going purely for the football and what I believe probably would happen, I would say Real Madrid. But I also said Leverkusen and I also said City, and that didn't happen. So I'm going with my heart. I'm going with the underdog, if you will. I'm going with the team that I want to see win, and that is going to be Dortmund. So I hope that that story kind of gets completed. But either way, to your point, we're looking at a cup final that's going to be played at Wembley and is probably going to be having some beautiful football for our viewership purposes. Another cup competition that has its final set and ready to go is the Conference League. It will be Fiorentina up against Olympiacos. Gee, both of these teams have something big to play for. What can be made of their journey to get to this cup final?
Yeah, both teams doing actually really well in this competition. And that's not to disrespect, their other, domestic form. But Olympiacos absolutely manhandling Villa in the semifinals, 6-2 in aggregate, was not something I don't think anyone in the footballing world expected. Fiorentina, only conceding their first goals of the knockout stages in the semifinal to Club Bruges. Like, two very, very good teams here. Both have had massive runs in this final, and both definitely kind of made this final by merit for sure.
And you know what? Fiorentina has always been a club for me personally that I've respected in Serie A, and Olympiacos, Arsenal's had some European ties against them down the years and have always been a difficult opponent. So, two clubs that definitely deserve to be here and have had some good output in this competition. And according to nicerodds.co.uk, we talked about odds earlier in the show. Last show, you know, the odds were kind of stacked in one team's favor and not in the other. Fiorentina here are only slight favorites to win this competition's cup final, and I mean only just. Gee, we're talking about the finest of margins here when we look at these odds. In your opinion, this probably could go either way, would you say?
Oh, absolutely. You know, like I said, both these teams have some real firepower. Both these teams defensively pretty solid. I think this is just a case of you could flip a coin. And, if they played this game 10 times, I think it would be, a 50-50 split of the wins. Yeah, I think it's going to be like the finest of margins deciding this game.
Yeah, good shout. And ultimately, gee, we do have to pick a winner. And this one for me is very difficult to call. But who do you see winning this cup final?
Uh, I lean slightly towards Olympiacos. I just think they've got just a little bit more of that like spark, a little more of that edge to kind of take them past Fiorentina. But again, like I would not be shocked if Fiorentina won this. I expect this to be close, and I'd be willing to, almost guarantee extra time, at least, maybe even penalties for it.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm going to go the same to you. I'm also going to say Olympiacos, but I think that this is actually going to be, regardless of what happens, I have high hopes for Fiorentina. There's something about that club that I've always kind of liked. Maybe it's the kit. I don't know.
100%. It's the '90s Nintendo kit. That's what it
It's
is.
got to be that. It's got to be that purple. But I think that going forward, I think Fiorentina is going to be in a very good place. So I do have high hopes for them. But I'll go Olympiacos as well. But for whoever wins this cup final, I'm certain that they will deserve it. And a reminder to our listeners that the Conference League final will be played on Wednesday, May 29th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. We've already said that the Champions League final will be played this upcoming Saturday, June 1st at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. So do make sure, if you can, to catch those because they're the final two cup competitions in Europe at club level for this season. And now it is time for a local soccer update. Men's soccer has just begun in the city of Sault Ste. Marie this past week. G, how have you enjoyed the start of the season, my friend?
So our first game was a forfeit win. So not that our season really, has started yet, but I mean, 3 goals and a clean sheet. Never going to complain about that for a first game of the year.
There you go. And in the case of my team, we have so many people in our team who are involved in high school soccer, one from a coaching perspective, and then also a few players. So we actually don't start until this upcoming Tuesday, but definitely looking forward to getting onto the pitch to play our first one. And with June just around the corner, that will mean that youth and women's soccer begin in just 1 week's time. Youth games actually for their draft purposes begin this week at Strathclyde Park. And then again, next week, the league will start for both youth and women's soccer. So please check out all games from Monday to Thursday evenings for men's, women, and youth soccer at Strathclyde Park, Tom Tifton Park, and Superior Heights Soccer Field, all in the city of Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. And G, more importantly, at this moment in time, it is high school soccer that has our soccer community completely and totally locked in. Junior girls has officially wrapped up with the Cora Colts winning the city championship, and it's the other three divisions of junior boys, and senior girls that will all finish tomorrow, Monday, May 27th. G, city finals are some of the most memorable moments for players in their athletic careers. I can attest to that, playing 5 years of high school sports. How much will this mean for all high school athletes who are competing in these cup finals for a city championship, either the one that's already passed or in the case the three games that will go tomorrow?
First of all, I just want to congratulate you for coaching your junior girls to the city championship. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And yeah, this is massive. I think these are, for a lot of these kids, kind of going to be the biggest sporting occasions of their lives. And that's not a disrespectful thing. It's just, not everyone continues sports kind of beyond high school. So yeah, I think these are, hugely important games for them. I think they're also hugely important games for the schools. As much as we're a small town of only a couple of schools, like those bragging rights are still, very much something that the schools, want, the kids want, and even like alumni want. Like I would love to see St. Mary's win them all, even though I haven't been there in 10 years. Yeah, I think it's kind of a huge day of city finals upcoming here on Monday.
Yeah, and again, to your point, as small as it may seem, from the outside looking into some people who aren't involved in sport, it does mean a lot for schools getting the accolades, the plaques on the wall, the trophies in the case, the extra funding, all of these sorts of things. It does mean a whole heck of a lot. So that is why it's kind of set at a very high bar. And to your point, it definitely is not disrespectful to say this is in most cases going to be the highest brand that most athletes will play, because not everyone's going to go on to play college or university soccer or obviously become a pro. So yeah, this is definitely the highest that some kids will play. And just in my cup final alone the other day, got to experience the emotion of it. And even though I've been a part of teams who've won them before, again, it's so interesting to know and see that kids can fully understand that hey, this is going to be one of the higher levels that I play at. It's going to be one of the more prestigious things that I've won. And yeah, it definitely is a big deal. So tomorrow night at Superior Heights is going to be a massive evening for all three of the other cup finals. And then this past Wednesday was a massive day for junior girls. And that junior girls final, as we just spoke about, consisted of Cora and St. Mary's. Tomorrow night, the junior boys final will see Cora battle against St. Mary's as well. The senior boys final will see St. Mary's go up against Superior Heights, and the senior girls final will see Cora play against St. Mary's also. The three city finals in which all teams will be vying to take home the city of Sault Ste. Marie's highest honor will take place Monday, May 27th at Superior Heights Soccer Field. The junior boys final kicks off at 6 p.m. The senior girls final kicks off at 7:30 p.m. And the senior boys final kicks off at 9 p.m. Gee, I'm going to be there for all three of those finals. I personally cannot say enough good things about this. Obviously, our cup final at junior girls that took place this past Wednesday was an absolute spectacle in and of itself. Packed stands, parents on the pitch after the whole bit. But you got everything that's set and ready to go. How important might it be for folks in our soccer community to not only go take in the spectacle of these events and these finals, but to support our young local athletes here in the city of Sault Ste. Marie?
I mean, I think supporting our young athletes, not just in high school soccer, in every sport's huge. There's, like you said, like this is kind of be the highest level that a lot of these kids play at. It's something to give them that, maybe that fuel to push on to play at a higher level, saying, hey, I love playing in front of a packed Superior Heights, a packed. I don't know. Does the new St. Mary's have stands yet?
Not yet, no.
But anyway, you get the point. Playing in front of that crowd, having that kind of backing and having that support. I played very low level sports my whole life, just house league and just for fun. And like it was always whenever I got to playoffs and like the stands at the Pee Wee would be full. It was like, oh, like this is different. This is like there's more on the line, even though again it's just house league. Like you feel the sense of importance kind of raise, and that's just people just sitting there. Even if they didn't care, if they didn't watch the game, if they sat on their phone the whole game, just having those people there, it just makes such a massive difference for them. So yeah, I think definitely if you are a local soccer fan, you should be getting, even if it's just for the one game, getting down there. I know I'm going to try and make at least one or two. But yeah, I think it's hugely important for these kids to kind of know that their community is backing them.
I fully agree with you. It is a great time to be involved in soccer in our community, and at this point in time in the year with Cup finals imminent, the hype of it all is just extraordinary. And in our next episode of Full Time, we'll be able to highlight all 4 city title winners, along with which schools will be representing the city of Sault Ste. Marie at the regional competition level, NASA. This is Daniel Scarpino and Gitano Gallo, and you're listening to Full Time on the Game Sports Podcast and 91 Network. A reminder that Full Time is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza. You can download and access the Pizza Portal app for any of the 2 locations in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Have a delicious hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars today. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Full Time. As we round out today's show, we want to thank you all for spending a little bit of time with us talking about the sport that connects us all. G, well done this morning, my friend.
Well done to you as well. And again, congratulations on your your junior girls win. Congratulations on your Arsenal season. I know it didn't end the way you would have liked, but still a phenomenal season for them. Sky's the limit for that team. And yeah, thank you for having me.
Hey, I'll tell you what, we both got a lot to congratulate each other on. The likes of your Manchester City winning the league, my junior girls winning the city title. So definitely we are both in a good place right now, and long may that continue. A reminder to our listeners that the next episode of Full Time will be recorded the week of June 3rd, 2024. In that show, we will wrap up officially Europe's Big Five for the season, mostly just City A, of course. We will analyze the results of the Champions League final, the Conference League final, and once again, we will take a look at some local and regional soccer. As always, we will keep everyone in the loop with all of the happenings in the world of football. For weekly content, make sure to hit like, follow, and subscribe to all platforms of both the Game Sports Podcast and 91 Network on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Podbean. For Gitano Gallo, my name is Daniel Scarpino, and thank you for tuning in to Full Time. We look forward to seeing you at kickoff next time back here on the Game Sports Podcast and 91 Network. Best always.